Jackie Cooper with the Blockchain Legal Institute talk show Member Bytes, as well as the Maryland Blockchain Association's Member Bytes. And I should not forget Crypto Mom too, because our conversation today is going to be on all three platforms, just because of the fact that my guest today, even though he and the company are based in Maryland, they are working globally, and it's something that everyone needs to know about. So our conversation is going to be posted across all social media. If you have any questions, for sure, you know the drill. Reach out. There'll be the information in the blog below with the contact information, and we're here to answer any of your questions. For those that do not know about the Blockchain Legal Institute, and if this is your first, listen, then definitely go over to our YouTube. We have a variety of talk shows that are on topics dealing with artificial intelligence, Bitcoin, blockchain use cases, compliance, the laws around the world. The Blockchain Legal Institute is actually a centralized library of decentralized resources. So definitely visit Blockchain Legal Institute, which is www.bli.tools. And one of the reasons why I'm spelling all this out is this is also going to be an audio for the talk show on Anchor and other locations. So I appreciate everyone from that perspective. But I am right now actually hosting this conversation with the idea that we are talking about Maryland and the Maryland Blockchain Association, which I'm really excited to be doing conversations with entrepreneurs in the space who happen to be Maryland based. And I met Chris and on a variety of ways where our paths crossed. And as I was talking to him and learned more about what he was doing, I thought, one, very special, one, that he's in Maryland, which is where I live, but two, equally special because of the fact that he is doing something that is very unique. And for those of you also that are listening to this prior to October 23rd, the Blockchain Legal Institute actually has a global summit. It is virtual, so definitely in March and October, we host these virtual summits, and Chris is actually going to be a speaker. So definitely, in addition to listening to his story here, hop over and join the Eventbrite, so that way you can see all the various speakers from around the world, of which Chris is going to be one of them. So without much further ado, Chris, how are you doing today?
Good. Thanks so much, Jackie. It's great to be here.
Yeah. So I see in your background, for those that are on the video side, you have your website, E-Livestock Global. So for those that might want, who are on the audio side, why don't you go ahead and share the link? Is it as it sounds, www.elivestockglobal.com?
Yep.
All right. So for those that are on the audio, hop on over, and that way you can explore more while we talk. So what's your story? How did you get into blockchain, and how did you even think about the livestock side? But I don't want to forget before we get started. There is a university, Maryland based, that I want us to be able to talk about because, again, we are talking about the resources that are both local based as well as international. So how did you even get into the blockchain world?
Well, I say that I got into blockchain a little bit by accident, in that I've my career history, I've spent 25 years working in innovation and technology, mostly in the international development space, primarily with USAID, also the World Bank, UN as well. But in terms of blockchain, I was actually in Uganda at an ICD4D conference, International Information Communications Technology for Development Conference. And someone said, oh, why don't you give a lightning talk at, there's another conference called ICT for Ag, Information Communications Technology for Agriculture, that's going to be held in a few months. And I said, oh, that sounds great. And when they got back to me, they said, oh, we're looking forward to your lightning talk on blockchain. And I said, blockchain. Well, I knew a little bit, and most people, when they start looking at blockchain, they realize that there's a lot. They think they're looking at blockchain, but they're looking at Bitcoin or they're most familiar with Bitcoin, and that was a little bit where I was as well. So I had to sort of do a little bit of a deep dive to see what sort of possibilities there were for for blockchain in agriculture. This is an agriculture event, and I started digging in. And by the time I was ready for my 7-minute lightning talk on blockchain, I'd learned quite a bit and saw a lot of potential. Particularly, I see a lot of potential in the area of ag value chains and supply chains. So that was primarily what my speech was on.
So that was what your speech was on. And then what did you do next? Because you obviously created a business that has tremendous value. So what made you take that next step?
Well, I've always been a little bit development done or international development done different. So I've always thought if you have a really good tech idea, why not? Why couldn't it be a company, or why couldn't it be spun off into a company? And there have been some cases of that, but there should really be more. When I was giving this lightning talk, someone I'd known for a while, Max Makavisi, who wound up being my co-founder, he's a rancher and was based in Africa, and he was actually touring the U.S. and I saw a picture of him wearing a cowboy hat, and I said, well, that's just fascinating, because when I knew Max, he wasn't usually wearing a cowboy hat. So we started talking, and he was talking about traceability in livestock, and knew a little bit about blockchain, but sort of saw the opportunity. And so we ran as you do with any idea or project, you look at the numbers. We ran the numbers, and it looked really interesting to look at traceability in livestock powered by blockchain. In the case of Zimbabwe, the reason we decided to pilot there was because in 2018, they'd had a disease outbreak that had killed over 50,000 animals, and we thought, what a great, I mean, terrible story, but what a great place to test out your system, because you've got such a fascinating use case there.
So how long did it take for you to develop this? And explain a little bit more, because I mean, again, when you first told me, because I'm also an author, for those that don't know, the Bitcoin Cinderella books, every time that I hear different things, I end up having a picture in my head. And so when you talked about livestock on blockchain, all I kept seeing was these little cows on on the chain. And I thought, well, that would be an interesting picture to kind of put in a book someday. But explain, how did you end up thinking about this?
We could have used you over the summer, because we had some interns from Maryland, actually, and we had them working on games. So, but I hadn't thought about cows on the chain for the stuff that we were creating. What it was that we thought about what blockchain could be used for, and in the case of I worked in health systems a little bit, and there are a lot of opportunities for better health in humans using technology. But when you get down to animals, it's even more so. So we thought, gosh, we should give the cows an identity number, and then tie that to a health record, and that's our basic system. People who bought a used vehicle are familiar with the concept called Carfax, where you have the service record of the vehicle, and then hopefully that there's no accidents. Well, we think of what we do a little bit like Cowfax, in that a well cared for animal is a more valuable animal.
Yeah, no, I can definitely see how this can be applied on the supply chain side and on the food side. So I'm curious, I know you and I've had conversations offline about how blockchain is being used within governments, and especially our government, and the idea that there is an interest in providing a digital documentation to safeguard food, especially because of not always knowing the source of the food or the source of contamination. So what's your thought about that, and how are we doing in the United States in that regard?
The U.S. is doing great and terribly, I would say, in that there's a lot of resistance in some of the food supply chains to certainly government direct involvement. So there's this whereas in Africa we can have discussions with governments about having a national livestock system, we find in the U.S. Market, it's more fractionalized, and there's some pushback to the idea of having a government system, even though I suspect there will be a stampede into systems such as e-Livestock the next time there's a major disease outbreak. there are a lot of good controls and systems in place, but there are gaps, and the only actual requirement for tagging in the U.S. market is just when they cross state lines. So there's no requirement to have animals tagged, and what you see almost happen with some of the feeder animals that come into the U.S. is that some sick ones almost get in, but literally it's going to happen at some point. And one of the when you go to, there's a group called Cattle Trace, and when you go to their events, they're pretty blunt that the U.S. government has emergency plans in place, but they've never the good news is they've never needed them, but the bad news is they don't actually know if things will work because they haven't had to respond to a mass event. So
So
yeah.
if you're in Maryland,
Mhm.
what are you for your platform, are you finding farms in Maryland that are using the platform, or are you actually finding farms in other states that are actually using the platform?
We would love to, if there's anyone on who sees this who who's has and the average, it's interesting too, in the U.S. market, the average herd size is about 40 animals, so it's a lot of smaller ranchers. We would love to partner with a bunch of those and do pilots, but I find Maryland is a little bit mature in terms of an agricultural market, so there's not as much emphasis on it or as much interest in it at the government side as there would be in other states. We're having some great discussions with other states, and it's a bit of a mixed bag because some of them are against they think we're trying to bring in a statewide system or something like that, but actually no, we're actually trying to help ranchers get more money for their animals.
I would think that in some ways, and you might have already branded it like this, but it sort of is like the organic movement. It's not to say that you have to have organic everything, but if you can at least have a quality stamp on the livestock to show that it's a higher value. Now, for me, I value organics, but someone else might not. But you know, if I knew that someone's livestock had this certificate of health, then it would, for me, if I was buying that, then I would know that it is going to be consumed and I'll be healthy or healthier. You know, again, it's that, like you said, from start to finished.
Right.
So, you know, is there a similar movement within the this industry like there has been on the organic side to kind of maybe provide that certificate of quality?
Not to I don't want to disparage the systems that are in place, but it's not as comprehensive or as I'll say as deep as people think. Some of the requirements are along the lines of tagging, and that you know, there's just the basic requirement, which doesn't mean that I don't think people should worry, but there is an opportunity, and our system will handle. We laugh about grass-fed because basically most livestock in Africa are grass-fed, so that one's an easy one. But yeah, grass-fed, organic. Well, it was interesting. Just having healthier animals in terms of a healthier animal is actually better for the environment. But the other thing that's going on in some of my discussions, some of the ranchers I talk to say, you know, we don't trust the animals we buy, so we go ahead and just immunize them again. Even though we think they're probably immunized, we just go ahead and immunize them again. But a double immunization is not good. That can have all sorts of long-term or consequences. You know, you overuse things. Yeah, it's like antibiotic overuse. It becomes an issue in the.
Now that brings up another interesting area. So you have adult livestock and then you have babies.
Mhm.
How long does it take before they're sent to market? Is it a year? Is it 2 years?
Depends what they're being used for. It varies. It can be a couple of years. It could be as short as, you know, a year and a half.
So actually another maybe area that might get it also started is if, like you said, the tagging of the young ones, if they only want to start at a certain level, and then they kind of move through the herd. I don't know, again, it's like different tiers, because once you know that a young one is tagged, then from the immunization perspective, you know that they already have their shots, and they don't, if they got sold, they don't need to get it because it's already tagged and identified. It sort of is like the health records that travel with kids when they go from one school to another. So this is, you're just creating a health record for an animal, but it's similar, from that perspective. It's an interesting concept. So, what other ways can people reach out to you? And where do you see your market growing? Where do you need help?
I was going to say beyond just the calf. Let me answer that, and then we're actually, I think, the only company we know of that does a tag with a QR code in it. So you can basically, that QR code can go all the way to the supermarket shelf. So that's another. We're all about trying to tag as soon as possible, and then carry it as far as possible. Although some products are more complicated than others. Yeah, anyone can reach out to me. We're on. We're on LinkedIn, the company and myself, and then also people can send me an email, Chris L at eLivestockGlobal.com, just my first name and last initial. Yeah, follow us on I call it Twitter, but follow us. You can follow us on X, eLivestock Glob. We should really have made that world, but there's a 15 character limit. Yes. So yeah, all these people are. It says eLivestock Global, but it's eLivestock Glob. So I try not to laugh when people say that.
That's cute. That's cute. I mean, for those that are listening, definitely all those links will be in the blog below, and that way you can reach out to Chris. I know that you are going to be speaking at my summit, but are you going to be at other conferences or locations if people want to kind of see you and meet you?
Yeah, if you're in the Montgomery County area, I'm going to be speaking at Montgomery College October 17th. It's a lunch and learn, so lunch is actually free. So we'll provide the flyer for that. Great to one of the fun things about what I do is I get to work with University of Maryland. I get to work with places like Montgomery College, and I think giving back is part of what we do.
Definitely. And now what about, have you introduced your concept to other agricultural programs that might be, at college level or university levels? What's been your, I don't want to say success because everything you're doing is successful, but what's been the nature of your outreach with those entities? Because you're also in many ways providing education to the next generation of how blockchain and technology can be used, because a lot of schools are just starting to, a lot of schools do have tech like this, programs that they're introducing, but a lot of schools don't. What's been your response, or how have you been networking there?
Well, what was fun, I was invited by the Smith School of Business at the University of Maryland. They did a case study on e-livestock, and they had their incoming masters in supply chain management students use it as an orientation case. So I actually got to go back on campus and meet some of sort of future. They're going to be. I realized that these are smart kids, and I'm going to have to. I can't sit quiet, but it was impressed by what they had done, reviewing the case for a couple of hours. And actually one person told me they were just up to like 11. And I said, really? And it was just, yeah, we've worked with GW, we've been in contact with Georgetown. We've kind of been running through the universities in the DC area, presented at DC Startup Week last year. So just, yeah, very very involved in the ecosystem, but also, yeah, education. We've had undergraduates look at what we're doing. We've had two sets of master students, the one I referenced, and another one at Maryland. Yeah, just also a little bit in the federal space with I have the USAID roots, and also, we're cleared. We work with the U.S. Commercial Service internationally, so we went through their review process, and now we can go to their events overseas. So.
That's awesome. I mean, for me, it's very exciting being both in the law side as well as in the education side. I think that this is it's critical that we both serve as entrepreneurs in our space to do what we want to do, but we also need to be kind of navigating the education of the next generation, whether they're career switchers or not, just because this space is evolving so fast, and the applications can be very creative, like what you're doing, and very practical and very important. And it can be diverse. So, companies can take the idea and apply it in a whole nother way. Someone might apply it to dogs and cats. Again, it's the whole idea that this for people I know overseas, they're looking at digital passports.
Mm-hmm.
And from the immigration perspective, if you're forced out of a community, whether it's because of weather or politics or whatever, and you have to travel without identification, how do you do this and still, be able to say who you are? So applying it to animals or
Mm-hmm.
people, again, same concept, even though with animals, less concern about privacy.
Yes, we noticed that.
So you can cross borders without maybe thinking about Micah, but again, it's like, again, a lot of different things. Any last? Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say we were approached by a major U.S. company to prototype a version of our system for domestic animals, not to do with consumption, but more with the registration and lookup function, because that's part of microchipping. Is there you have to be able, any system has to have a registration and lookup function.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if they find the animal, they can't tie it back to its owner. So.
Yeah, no, I mean, the cross applications for this, are enormous. So any last minute thoughts that you would like to share with those that are listening, either those that are thinking about going into a career such as, applying blockchain to an idea that they have, or related to eLivestock and how they can, reach out to you.
Oh, sure. It's someone who has a country that may be interested and wants to partner on that. That's we're very open. We're very open to that. Yeah. Last minute thoughts. Yeah, I think when you look at innovation, which is one of the things that the U.S. is just very very good at, I think it's actually a number of students do reach out to me or people reach out to me with ideas. I think it's great to try. I think everyone should try and do that one time. It's not. I won't lie, it's not the easiest thing in the world. I know the media tends to kind of like the lottery winner. The media tends to focus on successful entrepreneurs, but there are a lot of failures for everyone's success. Kind of like there's a lot of people who buy lottery tickets who don't win. So I think the entrepreneurship odds are better, but yeah, it's if your mind works that way, it's certainly something to try, and it's fun to I had to take an idea from Zimbabwe and go to New York and pitch MasterCard on it, and then had to try and find a VC that wanted to precede us, and it's fun, and now having been through, I think accelerators are interesting as well. So yeah, just if you have a dream, follow it.
For sure. And I appreciate everything that you're sharing, Chris. One thing that I do want to mention to everyone who's listening, the Maryland Blockchain Association has monthly virtual meetups. And so definitely when you go to our website, which is marylandblockchainassociation.org, you can sign up for free to these meetups, and you can meet individuals like Chris and others in the community that either have a business already going, or those that are interested, or even those that are just investing in cryptocurrency or creating NFTs or participating in DAOs. I mean, the innovative tech space is just exploding. And so again, it's it is monthly, it is virtual, so that way, no matter where you are, you can hop on for, the short time and kind of network and meet. And then, as I mentioned, if you have any questions, or if you have an idea, or you would like help, reach out to me. My contact will be below, because I'm constantly networking. I'm at, conferences. I know I've messaged, Chris about different grants that might be available to support. And I'm really trying to network within both the local Maryland community as well as the international community. So that way these resources can be provided to you, because that's what we are. We're here to serve everyone who's in the community. So thank you, Chris, for being here. Everyone who's listening, definitely, as I always say, be kind to yourself, be kind to others, because we're so interconnected. We're part of one world, and now more than ever. So everyone, have a great day, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you.